Snake River Correctional Institution is the largest prison in Oregon, with over 3,000 inmates. Recently, we hosted a week-long meditation intensive. The purpose of the intensive was to help inmates gain self-awareness and self-control and to change patterns of criminal thinking. Participation in this intensive was voluntary. The intensive was held in a room away from the main prison activity. The inmates arrived each day at 8 a.m. and stayed until 8:20 p.m. Most of their day was spent doing sitting and walking meditation. In this form of meditation, the practitioner sits on a cushion or chair, takes a good posture, and places his attention on the breath. When the mind wanders, there's a gentle acknowledgement of the thought, and then you return to the breath. Walking meditation is similar, except you place your attention on the movement of the feet rather than on the breath. Meditation is done silently. In fact, the entire intensive was conducted in silence, including lunchtime, dinner time, and a 1-hour recreation period in the gym after lunch. The theme of the intensive was working with emotions from the perspective of basic goodness. By basic goodness, we mean that there is nothing inherently wrong with any of us as human beings. We all have the capacity to be decent, kind, and wise. Meditation helps these qualities to emerge. The inmates were given tools to refrain from impulsive reactions, to claim their emotions as their own, and then to choose more pro-social behavior. 40 inmates completed the intensive. Following are excerpts from interviews with participants on the last full day of the intensive, and an interview with an inmate who has been meditating daily for the past few years.
One of the things about my incarceration is the feeling that I have to make a fundamental change within myself, maybe address things and start from a fresh perspective to avoid returning. I do feel like it'd make a difference if I could maybe compare it to something as if I've spent my whole life sitting in a giant empty room staring at a wall. And meditation has given me the ability to really notice and be more conscious of the space between myself and the wall. And with the intensive, it's helping me now that I'm more conscious of the space, the intensive, my natural instinct would be to fill that space with something. But this intensive, it's helped me be comfortable in that space, and maybe that I don't necessarily have to go out and get all this stuff to fill this room, that I can be content in that space. I'm more comfortable with myself, which isn't always, I've kind of acted and I haven't really wanted to approach things. I haven't been completely comfortable in my own skin, and I mean, this has completely changed my perspective on how I approach things and how I feel.
Actually, come to think of it, I learned a lot about myself, really. I learned what I'm capable of, because there's so much that goes on in the world that we're focused on so much information, we're processing so much information every day that we don't give ourselves enough time to sit down and actually soak it in.
My motivation was, besides a friend inviting me, I wanted to discover more about myself, my thinking process, and how to cope with some of my thoughts, and be able to continue on about my normal day without being distracted by different things.
I definitely accomplished realizing that I haven't experienced much of my life since I was a kid. I have only really thought about all of my life, never really experiencing it anymore. And while I was sitting on the cushion, it came to mind that, I don't really experience anything now. I always just run on habitual pattern. I don't, everything triggers me to do exactly what I do. Instead of taking it in and processing any of it, I just follow along. So now I'm starting to see where I can actually feel in the present instead of just following along. It's the first time that something like that has popped up.
I shared more. I'm a little bit more open.
A little more open.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, now it's kind of, I mean, even now, like for me to participate in this, it's something I probably wouldn't have did.
I've already had a few people even notice that there is a little bit of a change, so
Uh-huh.
I know from my personal experience that yes, I would have to say I can even feel it within myself. I know I've got a long ways to go, whether I'll ever be able to get as far as I'd like, but at least it's a challenge, it's something that I'm willing to do. You know, trying to let go of a lot of the things in the past has been a very difficult thing to do. And I know it's going to take time for me to work through that one myself.
It's also made me see that it's not going to kill me. It's not a threat. Being able to sit there and, you know, wade through the pain and understand that it's my mindset that's actually causing that.
It's giving me new avenues for solutions. It's giving me a sense of hope, you know?
And when I was in the Navy, I had began BUDS, which is basic underwater demolition school. And there, you have to bring to bear a lot of the same disciplines. You have to control the screams within your body.
When I actually think about it, when I go back and I look at something, when I've made mistakes, I can almost always go back and say, I wasn't present right then. And that's why I keep coming back. That's why I keep doing this, is that I've learned that this is what I can do to do better. Sitting hour after hour and just seeing what came up was just very interesting. It was a good experience. I completely enjoyed it.
Favorite aspect of the meditation was just really just sitting, you know, with yourself. But I like the camaraderie we had.
So how could that happen when you weren't talking?
You know, noticing them, actually noticing people instead of just seeing faces like we do around here. And it gives you confidence after a while. So, you know, just like I said earlier, it's going to give me confidence to actually meditate more, you know, just to be myself, really.
Yeah.
I think created a sense of unity that's hard to create in any other environment. With the silence, you're able to do that actually in a deeper way than I would have thought possible. But we're all just people. And for as much as we try to differentiate ourselves, or whether we think we're better than everyone or whether we think we're worse than everyone, I think maybe part of what I got out of this is that we're all just a bunch of guys and a few women trying to make their way in the world, doing the best we can with what we got.
Yeah.
Well, nobody likes to mess up. So, I mean, if we can do this and if this works, then yes, it's important.
Most people who are going to be, you know, watching this, they won't really understand it until they actually do it.
Right.
For anyone that's doubted meditation being helpful for you, you should knock it before you try it, because it helps a lot.
What is your name, when and why did you come to prison?
My name is Joe Narkin. I came to prison on May 20th, 2005. I robbed a bank in Pendleton, Oregon, community bank.
When did you start meditating? What prompted you to begin?
I dabbled in the idea of meditation at different parts of my life, but never really did anything serious with it. And I was placed down in DSU under investigation. But at one point while I was in there, I realized I had stopped and thought, and I said, you know, yeah, I'm down here in the hole where you have, you know, nothing, and there's no stimuli, so you really don't have a chance to let all that junk get in the way of what's really going on. So I had some time to actually just really think. When you really focus on what meditation can do, is it's really cleaning out the junk. You know, and in our minds, we're filled with so much of the garbage of life. You know, everything just kind of gets in the way. And it's a way of avoiding of dealing with your real issues. And so I picked up some meditation material while I was in DSU and began to practice. Originally, it was I'd practice like maybe twice a week because you know, your mind just can't even handle the idea of sitting and not doing anything for an extended period of time. But then as the more that it progressed and I was able to actually see those moments where you are able to actually get a single focus, which I've come to feel that for meditation for me is being able to control your mind, work with your mind, instead of letting your mind control you and what happens in the world around you. So I would catch little glimpses of how things just started to make sense when I meditated. By meditating, I had gotten to the point where I wasn't worried so much about all the things in prison and all of the things around me. And I was able to start to really focus on fixing me and working with me. Not necessarily, I think fixing might be the wrong word, but working with me. Starting to understand why I was doing so many of the things that I'd done. I was a complete, for lack of a better term, a knucklehead, you know, for most of my adult life. I had lied to so many people who I loved and cheated and treated them in ways that they didn't deserve. And when you meditate and you force yourself to sit and focus and address the thoughts that come in your mind, because that's a cornerstone. It's when something comes in, it's a distraction, but your idea is not to say, get out of here, get out of here. It's to say, okay, I acknowledge that. That's something I need to think about and work on. And I always remember when I had started getting better at meditating, I guess, or doing more of it, the thoughts that kept running through my mind were how much I had hurt my family, how much I had hurt the people that I loved, because they always believed in me. And I never would have acknowledged that, I don't think, had I not begun to meditate.
When will you release? Please talk about your work situation after release.
I released in 52 days, after pretty much 7.5 years in prison. There's a call center here at the institution. I started working there about 3 years ago. About 6-8 months ago, the owner of my company, who's actually located in Michigan, had flown out for a meeting with the other, with the people that work under him, and had offered me a job to continue to do what I do after I release. From inside the institution, from where I was, 7.5 years ago, a guy had slit his wrist and was in a suicide smock for 10 days when he first came to prison, to having a career when I walk out here. And I don't think any of that would be possible without meditation. Prison was the absolute best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. You would never think it, And the prison experience, it's what you make of it yourself. I think it's just like anything else in life. I think that this prison has done a lot of great things. It's not just me that does it. This might not be the most popular message, but there are opportunities here. There are programs in place. But it's how you take advantage of them. It's only a foundation. It's what you do with it. You have to make the choice. If every individual inmate just walked in this door and said, you know what, I'm going to make myself better, that's what will change everything for you.